How to respond to insults effectively. In an efficient way in which you will always win. In an intelligent way. To talk about this topic, I want to basically go to two main areas. The area of what would be the roots of this problem, which unfortunately happens a lot. And then to the part with more practical suggestions, what to actually do on the ground in practice. And I'm going to tell you that on a spiritual level, our sages explain that the person who is insulted and remains silent, that is the person who could really respond but stays quiet. He controls his instinct to respond, to take revenge, to say something back to what he heard, to defend himself or even attack the other person. And he holds back his tongue, closes his mouth, our sages explain, as if he were drinking a glass of water and his mouth is full of water, so he can't speak. He receives a spiritual light, a divine reward, that is, divine gifts that even the angels cannot attain. That is, the person who breaks his nature by not saying what he would like to say. That is, letting his animal instinct run free by responding, by taking revenge, by letting out the resentment he has in his heart, and he stops himself. He receives. In Hebrew, it's called Eta Hor Haganus, or means light. Ganus means hidden. It's a hidden light that even the angels, I said it in my own words freely, that even the angels cannot achieve. They don't acquire that because the angel doesn't have it. The gift that God gives you, which is free will, God gives you an incredible gift, which is the possibility to choose. As written in the Torah, God gives to people. If I say it in biblical Hebrew, I translate it freely. The quote can be very close or literal. God says, that is, God says to the person, I present to you life and death, good and evil, and you will freely choose life, as I said. It's very close to the literal meaning. Basically, God gives you in front of you free will, gives you good and evil, in which every second of your life you can always choose either good or evil. Think about it. From the moment you wake up until you go to bed, you constantly have challenges. Sometimes bigger challenges, smaller challenges, more subtle ones, more routine ones from day to day. But in front of you there is always life, death, good and evil, and God tells you to choose life. Therefore, you have to know this on a spiritual level. The fact that someone challenges you in which you are insulted or embarrassed in public. Basically, God gives you something very great. It's a very big treasure that God gives you. Surely this might be the first time you hear this, but you need to know this. The person who is insulted, shamed in public and basically passes this test by not responding, by lowering their head. Now, let's discuss more practical suggestions, which I believe is what we must do. He lowers his head, stays quiet, doesn't answer back. He receives impressive spiritual gifts, and also, on a human and emotional level, the person is cleansed. God cleanses him. It's a deep cleansing. Just like a garment. When you really have a party, you have a suit or a dress that you really want to be spotless, impeccable, clean, without any stain. Ironed, where you take it to the dry cleaners for dry cleaning, for steam ironing. That is, you want the total refinement of that garment so it can be the perfect outfit for the occasion. Therefore, if your soul at the moment you are insulted or shamed, God gives you this dry cleaning process. Why? Because you overcame something that on an instinctive level is almost inhuman to do, which is the most human, in quotes or in parentheses, I mean the most animalistic, which is to face these situations. To respond automatically on autopilot. The person is insulted, the person responds on autopilot. And who do you think you are? Why are you saying this to me? And are you worse than me? That is letting loose his automatic, animalistic, really letting our instincts run wild to get revenge, to let out that negative feeling, that frustration, that anger. Now, if you really overcome it, you get incredible spiritual gifts. I'm going to tell you what every Jewish man and woman says 3 times a day. At least in the three prayers of morning, afternoon, and night, we say this. At the end of the prayer, I say it in biblical Hebrew, and then I translate it. We say this. Elokai. My God, stop my tongue from speaking evil. Here you see, on the other hand, what we shouldn't do. Speak evil. That is, not only respond badly, but also speak badly. The eye is not the tongue. The eye is not even my tongue. Stop my tongue from speaking evil. That is, not to speak evil of anyone, not to say anything, nothing, not to slander. May God not allow me to speak. That's like what is said in Spanish, the slang, the coffee talk. Ah, what happened with so-and-so? What's up with Mengano? The more you avoid talking about other people, the more you talk about yourself, you save yourself a lot of problems. This is practical advice, unless there really is a very clear purpose, a good one. See, for example, you want to tell something very good to someone in front of you, someone they care about a lot. For instance, you want to say, did you know that our great friend overcame that thing? And you're sure they'll be happy about it. Your friend won't say, oh yes, but what about this other thing? You know it's for a good purpose. Maybe it's to help your friend, he overcame this. But if we think together, how can we help him keep overcoming that challenge he has? In Hebrew, it's called letolet, most meaning for a good purpose. For example, if you want to help your friend in that business, don't go, I got scammed yesterday, and when I went to complain, they laughed in my face and said they were going to keep scamming people. So you have no doubt that in that business they scam people, and you want to help your friend so he doesn't get scammed? Of course, it's a good intention. Obviously, I'm speaking about all this in very general terms. You have to study the laws, the ones called the laws of Shemirat Halashon, the laws of speaking well, of good speech in Hebrew, Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is bad speech, negative speech, evil tongue, but would it be in Hebrew? In summary, the Jewish world has strict laws governing speech and what one can listen to, which dictate what a person is allowed to say. Is this in parentheses? But what we ask for in every prayer, in the morning, afternoon, and night, we say, Elokai, my God. And my lips, please stop them from lying. Let my lips not lie. And then we say, and those who curse me, let my soul be silent. This relates closely to today's topic in terms of what is said and left unsaid. It's often said that those who curse me, let my soul be silent, not respond, and my soul shehi menefeshim yelama, that afar. Like dust, I will be like dust before every person. That is, my soul will be like dust before anyone. That is, once I heard or studied something impressive. Think about what dust is dust. The earth is constantly trampled on. When we walk in this world, we walk on earth. Even if we walk on pavement, that pavement is on top of earth. That is, we walk and trample. This earth and the earth that gives what we eat, the fruit of the earth, the fruits, the vegetables. The whole beautiful world is on the earth where we live. That God, with His immense kindness, creates such a wonderful world, and that the earth we walk on gives fruit. So, on a slightly more metaphorical level, it is. And that my soul, my nafshi, like dust before everything. Should it be like dust? That is, even if they trample on me, I will be like dust. That is, I won't respond like someone with an ego. Instead, I'll keep my mouth shut. Surely, maybe my mouth will be directed to God to help me overcome it. To judge that person favorably, not to respond badly. To find good points in the other person. And now we're going to move on to the more practical suggestions part. Very well. Now, practical suggestions, as we said first. The fact of knowing that God is giving you a magnificent spiritual treasure. That is, the moment someone speaks badly to you, embarrasses you in public, criticizes you, you are receiving a gift from heaven, therefore, that will already give you peace of mind. What you have to ask God is to help you. This is very practical. God, help me to remember this constantly. Help me. I even invite you. I invite you to do a meditation even in the middle of your day, ideally at the beginning or at the end of the day. We're going to do a short meditation, but you can do it for as long as you want. Find a comfortable, peaceful place where no one will disturb you. Sit down. Breathe. You can use the flower and candle breathing exercise. What does it mean? As if you're smelling a flower. And you breathe out as if you want to blow out a candle. Inhale as if smelling a pleasant flower scent. You inhale. You hold the air for a few seconds. You exhale. And on the level of thought and on the level of words, you can ask God to help you. Obviously, at the moment of the insult, it's a moment with a lot of adrenaline. That is to say, the anger probably goes up. The temperature goes up. Therefore, in quiet moments, you basically have to, just like when you charge your phone, you don't charge it, you try not to charge it when it has left. Charge your device before the battery reaches 1% to avoid waiting until it's nearly depleted. Therefore, when you are calm, you need to recharge your energy. Sending positive energy and prayers to God for strength and guidance. And ask Him, for example, this is just an example, for Him to give you good advice and strength. To overcome it, not to get angry and basically not to respond badly. That first, and then another practical tip is basically not to respond and to keep doing what you were doing, that is, think as well. This can be divided into two main areas. Someone who doesn't know you or who knows you very little. You don't have a connection and they speak badly to you, curse you or treat you badly. They embarrass you in public. The main reason is that you lack a connection with that individual. Can you really get out of that easily and gracefully? Basically, keep doing what you're doing. As if something like that had been heard. A bird singing or an alien who turned on the radio in his house and you walked by and heard it. As if it wasn't directed at you. You don't even have to look at him or give him nothing. Go on. Go on, like he talks about the bullying thing. Unfortunately, in educational places, in all kinds of places, there's bullying. People who really attack other people. But you have to know that when the person being attacked doesn't give that person any attention. Basically, obviously, it's someone toxic. Basically, it's like a poison. It's not someone who cares about you or someone you have a bond with. It's someone who wants to attack. Basically, you have to focus on the good. Take care of what you are doing. Focus on doing good, and also as you go, start thinking well of that person. Here we come to a suggestion that is both practical and spiritual. Actually, everything we're talking about has to do with practice and spirituality, but here is something very important. And when you think about the good points of that person, you have to look for them. If it's not easy, search for them as if you were looking for a treasure. And look for good points without even saying a word, and think good things about that person. Surely the way that person treats you will be very different. But also, if you don't have a connection with that person, focus on being good and the bad will automatically come to an end. Don't give it any space, don't smile or things like that, or don't say no, just keep doing good. You're doing a task, for example, at your workplace. Just keep doing what you are doing. Don't stop. Don't smile as if you're giving that person space or with a nervous smile. Doesn't he keep doing the right thing? That's one thing. Now, if the person has a connection with you, first, as we said, silence, don't respond. Hold on, pray, talk to God, ask Him to give you strength to stay strong in this great challenge. And then what should you do? Approaching that person privately can be done with a text message if you don't feel comfortable calling him or her. Or you can write an email, basically. But wait until you are clean, until you are clear-headed. That is, if the adrenaline, the fire of anger or frustration is still very present, wait for the fires to calm down, or if that person also got angry with you, wait for the fires to calm down. Let water flow under the bridge, as the saying goes. And at the moment when you and that person are calm, that's when you should approach that person. For example, if it's with a message, look, I want to tell you that what you said really hurt me, I judge you in a good way, maybe you just had a bad day. That is, can you talk about yourself first? That is, in English, it's called the I message. That is, it hurt me a lot, I felt really bad, it was very hard for me. That is, no, you are you. It can't be that you do this to me. It can't be that you say this. It can't be that you... The moment you attack the person feels attacked, and automatically. Most likely, as we talked about before, they will want to respond negatively, more on an animal level. That is, the person is attacked, they defend themselves. That both sides are calm and talk about yourself. It hurt me a lot, it's really hard for me. I would like our bond to get stronger. How can we do that? Basically, think positively, and speak from your own perspective, from your own pain. And giving that person the benefit of the doubt, maybe they had a bad day, maybe someone treated them badly. In other words, look for positivity everywhere. That will take you, that person, and the relationship from a bad place to a good place, God willing. Therefore, this is very important. On one hand, to know by doing, to sum up what we talked about, to know that the moment you govern yourself, self-govern and overcome yourself. As our sages explain in the Mishnah, the holy book of the Mishnah from our Jewish sages about 2000 years ago, they say that the person Aiso Agwibor, I'll translate it later in biblical Hebrew, is Aiso Agwibor. Who is the Agwibor, the strong one? Ako Veshetitzro. The one who conquers his inclination towards evil. And it says much more. The Agwibor is braver and stronger than the one who conquers a city. That is to say, this is something very profound. A person can be a great conqueror, a great military leader, an impressive, seemingly strong person, and someone who conquers cities. But what? Someone says half a word to him, a little or not in the right tone. The person, like an animal, he loses his temper, gets angry, yells, thinks. Is that person strong? If every half word someone says to him, not in the perfect tone, makes him angry, is that someone strong or is that someone weak? Our Jewish sages explain that a weak person lacks self-control, while a strong person exhibits self-control. His inclination toward evil, his inner animal. Because God created us this way from the start, that's how He made us. From the start, that's how He made us. It's not a factory defect, God forbid. God created us with an animal soul, a divine soul, and our whole life is basically a natural struggle between the divine soul and the animal soul. That is the challenge of life. That's why it's what we talked about at the beginning. God tells us, I gave you life and death, good and evil before you, and you will choose life. Therefore, this is very profound the moment you realize that you live in your inner world. There is an animal soul, a divine soul that is in constant push, and the animal soul obviously wants comfort. It wants what's good for itself. It doesn't want what's good for others. In other words, basically it's like the most selfish version of myself, basically just taking care of myself. The most animalistic part, survival, the survival instinct. If someone talks to me badly, getting angry, yelling, just like an animal would. But the divine soul is a soul that is a soul. Everything is made by God. God is our creator, the Almighty. Obviously, God created us, just as we said from the beginning, to give us spiritual gifts, spectacular, impressive spiritual treasures. Why? Because we choose life, every good deed, every time we overcome and let our divine soul win over the animal soul. They are impressive spiritual blows that one receives. Much more than the angels, because angels are basically sent by God to do God's will, but they don't have free will. Angels are God's messengers and do not possess animal or divine souls. To do God's will in this world, to help this world continue and move forward. But basically, a person has to choose good, and God gives each individual, gives you the possibility to choose good. Therefore, to sum up, every time you understand in this challenge that they insult you and you overcome it, first you receive amazing spiritual gifts. Then you grow spiritually and also materially, which means even your material life will be filled with blessings. The moment you live a life of doing God's will, you live a much more divine and less animalistic life, much more divine, in which you want to do good. Your divine soul wants to help others, to do chesed in Hebrew, to do acts of kindness. That is basically to move away from selfishness and be altruistic. God willing, all of this will bring you spiritual and material blessings, greatly enriching your relationships and life. As it says in Hebrew, mevoroshet, much more blessed. May we have the merit, first of all, to always be aware of this, of everything we talked about today. To be in a constant connection with God, in a tefillah, in a continuous prayer, in an ongoing dialogue with God. To ask God for advice and for Him to help us choose life. Uvacharta bachayim. And you will choose life, always success and blessings.